Hi, I'm Chaya Lester here at the Shalev Center in Jerusalem, wanting to share with you a really quick and easy and hopefully doable tool for dealing with anxiety. You know, over the years, we've noticed that a lot of people come in suffering from anxiety. It happens to the best of us, very common, especially in kind of chaotic times. The good news is that anxiety is something that's very easy to tackle and to make strides forward with and improve. Through basic tools of self-awareness and self-talk, we can greatly de-escalate our anxious feelings. So I want to share with you one path of how to do that, something I've found to be really helpful for people. And I call it the ladder. And it's basically taken from a bunch of cognitive behavioral therapy methods kind of put together. And the ladder basically traces through physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, and back down again. So here's how it goes. First of all, physical. Notice what your triggers are. Become aware of your triggers. We all have different triggers. So maybe some of your triggers are not sleeping well, when you skip breakfast, or skipping breakfast and just drinking a cup of coffee, or bad news on the internet, right? Notice first and foremost, what are the circumstances that are happening right now that are kind of creating this anxious feeling in me, and creating awareness around that. And it can be a slew of different triggers all happening at once. Second, once you have that awareness, notice emotionally what's going on, learning your emotional terrain. When X trigger happens, I usually feel Y. One great way to note what my emotions are is to look at the body. Emotions are basically a physical reaction that has no physical cause. Okay, so it's like, why am I panting and with heartbeat going wild when I'm just sitting on the couch? So it's happening because I'm having an emotion. Emotions create physical symptoms. So notice physically what's going on first and foremost. Sweating palms, racing breath, racing heart, tight chest, hard time breathing. Notice physically, and what are the emotions behind that? Well, I'm feeling fear and panic, and creating awareness around that. One thing to do, just straight off the bat here, is to breathe. 3 strong, deep breaths can lower that body reaction down significantly and take the emotions down with it. So breathing 3 times deeply is really helpful right here at the emotional place. Next is noticing the thinking. So we usually have within us basic audio tapes of negative thought patterns. No matter what the triggers are, oftentimes it comes back to the same old negative thinking. So I'll give an example of a client who was feeling triggered because of the recent fires in Israel. So physically, she was noticing this trigger of reading about the fires on the internet, and emotionally, she noticed I'm feeling panic and fear and despondency and overwhelm. And she said to herself, when X happens, trigger, I feel Y, and I'm usually thinking Z. So what are the normal thoughts that come when these things happen and I feel these triggers? So for this client, her thought patterns usually go something like, the world is not safe and I am not capable of dealing with this. That's like her basic thinking that happens time and time again in her life. And here it was, up front and center. So the basic work to do here is then to notice that thinking and say, okay, these are my distorted thoughts. The more I have awareness of it, the more I can extract myself from their grip. Okay, here is this distorted thinking. Once again, it's here. Creating the awareness of it. And then accessing a higher place. Now, for some people, this might be easiest seen as your rational mind. Rationally, what is your response to the idea that the world is totally unsafe and you can't handle it? Is that a rational way of thinking? So it's accessing a rational mind, and I would even add accessing more of a spiritual perspective, more of a spiritual kind of faith that everything's going to be okay, and I'm a soul, and I'm going to get through this. So accessing the part of you that sort of transcends that irrational thinking and reminds you of kind of the eternal truths of your goodness and of life's goodness, and accessing that and bringing that in. So one way to look at it really simply is like a table. Every table has to have legs that hold it up. Usually we have negative tabletops of thoughts that are held up by negative evidence that we believe to be true. We're just going to topple that table and create a new table, an opposite table. So for my client, her new table that she created was, I can handle this. I can handle bad news. And then ask yourself, what are the 4 legs of evidence that are sturdy and strong that I can base this new thought upon? So, she said things like, well, when my uncle died, it was bad news, but I was fine and I handled it and I got through it. Or, is this really such bad news? Things can be a lot worse, or I've handled worse before. So it's accessing evidence in my own life and my own experience that I know to be true about myself and about the world that prove this new table of thinking. So here we are going back down from the spiritual, bringing it into replacing the negative thoughts with a sturdy table with 4 pieces of solid evidence about why this new thought is true. And then noticing, going back down to the emotions, and noticing now when I say this new idea that I can handle bad news, how does that feel? Well, I feel calm and empowered. I feel maybe some concern about the situation, but I feel ready and capable of dealing with it. I feel peace. And then going back down the next rung, the final rung, back to the physical, and saying, what are the circumstances that I can tweak here? What are the physical circumstances? Maybe next time I make sure to not have coffee for breakfast and to get good sleep and to watch less internet. What are the physical things that I can do in response from this more grounded place, this more centered place inside of me now that I've come down the ladder? And all of this is not about spiritual escapism. This is about tackling with and dealing with life's normal challenges, but not from an anxious place, rather from a grounded, centered, strong place. That is going to be the place that we can deal with life's challenges, with utmost ability. So that's really the goal, is to get into our grounded sense of strength and rightness. And one way to do that is to create the self-awareness, to walk yourself through the physical, the emotions, the negative thoughts, accessing higher thinking, and then recreating the table with the new thoughts, with the new evidence, noticing how good it feels, and then changing the physical circumstances in a way that will be empowering and impactful in your life. Best of luck. Let us know how it goes.